Hello, welcome to Claret Blue live from Hockley Social Club. My name's Dan Rowlands. I'm joined here once again by John Townley, and we're going to do an Aston Villa Q&A. I really like doing these Q&As because the breadth of the topics that come up are...
No, there's no ends, yeah.
They're interesting to say the least, given some of the ones I've got here in front of me. These are all from Twitter. Now, at some point, we are going to open this up to YouTube comments as well, and we'll let you know that we're doing a Q&A and we're after questions, because I feel like we need to involve that YouTube community a little bit more. We'll start straight away, though, with the question from John Hayes. He says, should we move to a completely new stadium that rivals the best teams in terms of its capacity, multi-purpose ability and modernisation?
I'll let you answer this.
The answer for me is no way, is what I've put in my notes. I can't get on board with a totally new stadium. Rebuilding Villa Park several times and expanding it and making it bigger and better, I'm absolutely all for that. I understand it's difficult sometimes to get to and from Villa Park, and that's an issue, and I kind of get the appeal of moving somewhere that's easier to get in and out of and things like that, but Villa Park is Aston Villa, like it's our history. It'd be very hard to kind of wash our hands of that and do what West Ham have done and move from Upton Park to London Stadium. It's just their fans don't like that, and I feel like whoever is the owner or the chairman or whoever that makes that decision at Aston Villa, I'm not sure they ever recover from that, because I don't think the fans would want it.
A lot of fans have been talking about it in general on social media, and I think most people would say absolutely not. It's just that point of Villa are obviously trying to make a lot of adaptations to Villa Park to make it more accessible, for one, I think is the key.
Yeah.
Transport links have to be improved, and no one's more frustrated that isn't being pushed through at the moment than them. Obviously, the phase one of the redevelopment's been adapted ever so slightly, so now the club shop and a cafe is going to be moved into the north stand, which is going to be a bit of an adaptation to the planning proposal there, and then a new planning proposal will be made for the Academy or Stumps building that's being sort of renovated and revitalised, while the Villa Live is still a project that's going to take shape eventually, but just not right now. So there'll still be changes that are going to come about in terms of the phase one, but we know that's going to increase the capacity by 7,000 fans or so. The difficulty is the transport, and where Villa Park is located, yes, this train station's very close, and I think Witton is the closest to a stadium in the Premier League, if I'm not mistaken, or one of. So it's all there. It just needs to be improvements, don't there? And those are conversations with the council, and we're not privy to them, but the conversation about moving Villa Park is a non-starter for almost everyone. However, if you asked in 6 years or 5 years and progress hasn't particularly been made, should we say, then those conversations will continue, because Villa need to be housing fans in a big stadium. It's a huge catchment area, the biggest club in the Midlands, and in Birmingham, the second city, by far the most supported. Those conversations will continue. I'm sure, again, if that progress isn't seen, you can't have more than 30, 40, even more over the next few years, 1,000 on a waiting list, because generations after ourselves will need to be going to games. It has to happen. You can't
have the same set of fans for 70 years.
You've got a newborn, and if in 10 years they can't get a ticket to watch the game, that's a major problem. And Villa Park is Aston Villa, and it's the best stadium in the country, for sure, for me, and probably for you as well. And it resonates with so many people, so absolutely we don't want to move. But those conversations are only being sort of sparked because of the sort of frustrations, I suppose, about what I've just mentioned. But again, no one at the club is more sort of eager for that to be pushed forward. So we'll see what happens in the coming months, and hopefully they can sort of break ground on everything that they want to do, because it's a really exciting project.
Let's move to on the pitch then. Last season, I'm not going to read names for everyone here, because some Twitter users, this is Dr. AVFC. It's not from Dr. Tony. It's a different doctor.
Cheers, Doc.
Last season, it was Douglas Luiz who had a breakout season, playing the best football that we've seen from him in a Villa shirt. Who do you think it could or will be for the season coming? I think that's a great question. I would love a massive season from Ollie Watkins and break that 20-goal mark. I think that would be such a nice thing to see, as much as it being useful on the pitch to have a 20-goal striker. And the other one of players that are obviously currently here, I don't know how much game time he's going to get depending on potential other signings, is Buendia. He's still the club record at the minute. He's still the club record transfer. Like, I'd like to see more from him, to have a 10-goal, 10-assist season. Like, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's very difficult, and the question is brilliant, but it's hard because everyone's improved a little bit, I think, or a little bit, quite a lot under Emery. Luiz is just the standout because I think we knew there was always a player in there, and it's just getting the most out of him, and he's got that now, and he's been given licence to be arguably our best player. So it's difficult. I had Jacob Ramsey in mind.
Yeah.
Because I just think there's a different level or more levels he can go, and I can see that happening. And at the time of recording, this is the morning after he's injured his ankle, and there's potentially a case that he might need surgery. So we'll see how that plays out. But over the course of a season, I think he could be one that really, puffs his chest out and cracks on and goes through those gears now, because he's still young, of course he is, but he's now getting to that period where he can really realise that high potential that he has. He doesn't really have a ceiling for me. He's got everything he needs to become a top player, and next year I think he can definitely do that. And I'm with you on Buendia and Watkins. There's room for their improvement as well. But I just think Ramsey, if he plays enough games, which I'm sure he will, you can see a real player in the making there, and under Emery I'm sure he'll become that.
Like I said at the start, there's going to be a few nonsense questions in here as well, but there's some football ones, I promise. Best Villa kits in the last 5 years, says Mike. And the first one of 5 years is what, 2018? So
luckily it's
we go back to 2018 with Luke Roper. I prefer the white, just to be slightly different.
I've got that one.
Yeah, I know.
I wish I had the home one though, because that's the...
Yeah, it's obviously the one we got promoted in, but I love a white away kit. And obviously, as we record this season's away kit hasn't come out yet. I'd love it to be white, because I just think Aston Villa and white away kits is kind of iconic.
I quite like the black away shirt from 2020 to 21.
Yeah,
the Arsenal 3-0 away, that one.
Yeah,
I thought that was quite nice. Well, I don't like shirts that sort of overdo it. I like it to be clean, and so I think that was quite nice.
You're often wearing black as well, so I can see that.
Yeah, I went out of the house today and I thought it looks a bit...
Where's the pop
depressing, did it?
Right, where next?
Yeah, me having a black away shirt as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Here's a great question. I love this one. Hidden Villain says, if you put Watkins in the Martin O'Neill teams that finished 6th for 3 seasons running, or Gabby Agbonlahor of that era in last season's Unai Emery side, who scores more goals over the course of an entire season?
I think Gabby got 11 and then 13 goals from...
Something like that. He never had like a massive season, did he? It was 15, 16.
Yeah, 08, 09 and then 9 to 10 was 11 to 13, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah, and Watkins has had 14 and 15, so... I'll go with Watkins, because strangely, I feel like we're a better team now than what we were under O'Neill. Whereas O'Neill, we were obviously a good team, but we had some very good individuals: your Ashley Youngs, James Milner, Gareth Barry. And I
very good team, but I think it was like very kind of like we're a counter-attacking side, and we've got to kind of that's all we've got. I think a lot of those players you mentioned there are very good, and in their prime would probably be in this.
I thought Gabby might have scored more goals over that period, maybe potentially. And I know we played with 2 strikers quite often as well, so maybe that's sort of sharing the load with a John Carew or whoever. Maybe that's the reason. But
I think Watkins is a better footballer than Gabby. I think Gabby was known for his speed and not the best finisher.
Football's changed so much as well. We'll never know if Gabby Agbonlahor was as good a presser as Ollie Watkins.
Well, yeah, if Gabby Agbonlahor came through in this day and age, would he play as many games for us as he did? Probably not. Let's go with one of these nonsense questions then. I love stuff like this. Curious whether you'll get the reference here. From Matt, he says, will there ever be a boy who can swim faster than a shark?
Ask Gareth Keenan.
Yeah, I'm glad you understand the reference. I wasn't sure whether you're an Office fan or not.
No, I love The Office. Yeah,
absolutely world class. I love it. I put in my little notes, niche reference, but I like it. And the answer is yes. Why not? Let's have it. Right, another nonsense one. Let's get them out of the way. From Jai Villa. He says, who'd win a free-for-all out of the biggest Villa podcasters? Also, new content idea. Which again, I think is a great question.
Well, if we're part of the biggest Villa podcasters, and then brilliant, I don't care who wins.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's nice to be in that arena, isn't it? Literally. I reckon Ty Bracey's got a bit about him, and Bardell as well, just because they're big lads. So I reckon in a fist fight, like I'm 5'9", 5'10", I think these guys are like 6'2", 6'3".
20 people in an octagon sort of thing.
That's a great one. Maybe it is that. I was just thinking like a boxing thing. If it's like a massive, free fall, yeah, you're right.
I don't know.
I'd struggle.
Pick your fights.
Put it that way, I would struggle. Whoever is the shortest, I'd be going for them. As like,
go for me then.
Try and beat them down first. Yeah, but we'd have to be on the same side, wouldn't we? No, who knows? Have you got a one-person answer? Who's winning that?
I don't want to.
Who's winning that Royal Rumble?
I think you would.
Oh, fair play. Love that.
On your new diet.
Yeah. I need to get into my weight class first before I show up in one of these. James says, Lozano, Chiesa or Gonçalves, you can only pick one. Who are you taking?
I'm not actually too sure about if Villa are actually interested in Lozano or not. I haven't had that I haven't corroborated that yet. We know about Chiesa. Chiesa was correct. Villa did try an ambitious move for him. presumably he turned them down. That was ambitious, I thought. My answer straight away would be Chiesa, because I think he would fit in what Emery wants. Everyone loves Gonçalves. I do as well. I think he's a great player. He has a £68 million buyout, €80 million buyout.
Pau Torres had a £55 million buyout.
Yeah, and no one would be paying that because they've just bought. I think 40% of. So the Sporting bought Gonçalves from Famalicão, who were a lower Portuguese team, and they had a big sell-on clause. So they've
bought that out.
Most of it, so they own 90% now of Gonçalves. So they spent $7 million to get that, which you'd presume they wouldn't be thinking that someone's buying them out if they, So maybe they're expecting a bid this summer from someone, I don't know. My only thing with Gonçalves is he's very versatile. He can play midfield, left wing, different positions. So one part of me says, he'd be brilliant in our system, but I don't know if it's exactly what we're looking for. I think we're looking more so for you look at a Chiesa or a Nico Williams, that's a player who's going to be on the shoulder, or a player that's going to be with Ollie Watkins. I'm not sure if Gonçalves has that. I think he'd rather sort of drop to receive and move the ball. So must have to buy him plus another one, I think. So I would go with Chiesa.
You can only have one.
I know, I would go with Chiesa then off that. And I think Lozano's a very good player as well. But Chiesa's an excellent player. I think that's was a bit ambitious by Villa.
The ambitious.
You need ambition, exactly.
Yeah,
you need to go for those players, and eventually, hopefully, we'll get to that stage where those players will be more likely, should we say, to sign. And Pau Torres is definitely a nod to that. So, who would you go for?
I went Chiesa just because he seems the most mad. Like, that sounds like a mad signing. So if I can only pick one,
he did have he had an ACL last season, I think, or maybe this season. Can't quite remember. Last season was tricky for him at Juve.
And you mean last season as in last one before, not the one just gone?
We're in that weird stage, aren't we? Yeah.
From Daniel Bowden, he says, how will the Thursday-Sunday fixture change due to being in Europe affect our league position next season? Emery's used to it, but the majority of the players won't be. Now, I don't think this will impact us massively. I think Emery is this kind of European expert, and he'll know exactly how to manage it, like Daniel says. And I get that it's new for the players, but he will prepare them in the right way. His insight and his knowledge of how to prepare a side for that fixture pile-up. It's kind of irrelevant that the players haven't gone through it, because the manager has, and the manager makes decisions, so he'll prepare the medical team and the recovery teams and whatever else to get the players ready for that. This is a bit of a laboured point, but I think if we were heading into Europe for the first time now since 20 whenever, with Dean Smith in charge, who was also never managed in Europe before, I'd be more concerned about how that would affect a drop-off in the Premier League, because it's new for him as well. And this isn't an anti-Dean Smith thing, by the way, that's just an example. Because Emery's been there and done it, I don't think it will affect league position too much. It's almost a little bit of a cliche to go, it's a fixture change, it's more games. Villa will finish 15th next year, but they might do well in Europe, but Premier League will go down a spiral. I don't think there will be a drop-off, basically.
Yeah, and I think if you look at, since Emery came in, only City and Arsenal got more points. Only City got more points than since the start of 2023. But does that mean Villa are going to finish third or second next season?
Well, yeah, no.
Probably not. So, but that is also comfort to think, well, actually, we can definitely still finish in the top 7 next season because we were that good. So,
even with a drop-off,
we want to be in the Champions League. A drop-off really would mean that with where we were this season, which would be a brilliant season.
Well, yeah, the drop-off might be comparable to the 10 games under Steven Gerrard in terms of points.
Yes.
So overall, you'd still finish in around the top 7.
Yeah, exactly that. So I personally don't buy the when people say, "Oh, would you take what West Ham have done in the finishing low in the Premier League and winning the Conference League?" I understand it because then you're in Europe and it's technically a successful season and you have that moment of winning the trophy, but that means that something's gone dramatically wrong.
Yeah.
And that would be an issue. West Ham were fighting relegation up until the last 4 games of the season, so that wasn't a successful season. However, in terms of, you know what I'm trying to say, in terms of the Premier League, Villa, if they do that, well, there's a problem then, isn't there? So we have to be finishing in the top half, really, because then that means that we're only a few points off Europe. And that's this, that could be the final 3 games of the season where we're coming up to the Conference League final, hypothetical. So yeah, I think he'll manage it fine. I think it's just down to the players. Can they take on those hour-long, 2-hour-long sessions between Thursdays and Sundays? That's the key. Everything will be there in terms of what Emery's producing. He's been in European football now for 15, in this moment will be his 16th season in it.
In a row.
So he was in the Conference League last season with Villarreal, so he knows all about it. His coaching staff know all about it. It's just, can the players be sort of mentally prepared for it? And I think they should be. And Emery will he'll know that those players haven't been in that before, so he'll give them the best resources and the best tools to make it work. So I'm confident about that being fine.
One from Rakesh who says, what is the future for Jayden Philogene, Tim Irabunam, Cameron Archer and Aaron Ramsey after stellar performances in the Championship last year? Will they be willing to wait, or will they, or more likely their agents, look to move them on? I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, so Villa have got quite a number of players out on loan, or did last season. The most notable would be Cameron Archer coming back and featuring in the first team. I'm not sure if Tim, Aaron Ramsey or Philogene will, because I don't know if they're ready, and maybe they are. We'll see in pre-season. I know that Stoke want to sign Philogene. I could see that happening because I'm not sure he'll be getting the game time needed. And will he need another loan for his own development? I think he probably...
Sorry.
I think he's probably after a permanent move now to really kick on his career because he's a very good player. But is he ready for the Villa first team? We'll see, potentially. Tim, he's had 1 year now at QPR on loan. Again, really promising player and someone who I'm not sure is ready yet. Maybe he's a bit too raw to play, but the same for Aaron Ramsey as well. But then you look at it and think, well, in the Conference League, Villa need to be hitting that homegrown sort of quota, those rules that are set. So you need 4 club-trained players in your team for the Conference League if we get past the group stage. Sorry, get past the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob Ramsey will be one. I'd have thought a goalkeeper would be a second, so maybe Sinisalo. Tim, I don't think would count because we signed him from West Brom back in 20...
Are you sure? Is trained at Villa and not just trained in England?
Club trained.
Okay.
So you need 4 club trained players and 4 homegrown players.
Right, okay.
Homegrown players, Matty Cash, Martinez.
Yeah.
He qualifies because he's at Arsenal. So club trained players, Cameron Archer, goalkeeper.
Both the Ramsey brothers.
Maybe his brother.
Yeah.
And maybe someone else. I don't know who. But then for their development, do they need to move elsewhere on loan for the whole season, or do they just tick a box for Villa?
Yes.
That's the thing you have to weigh up. So, and will they get the game time anyway in those competitions? I'm not too sure. Could you not just put a I don't know,
random kid that's not going to play anyway?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's up to the club and up to Emery, because West Ham did it and Tottenham did it. They did it quite easily because they've got players that have come through their ranks, and so do we. But it's just what's more beneficial for them. I think that will be the main thing.
What happens if you can't fulfil that quota?
Then your overall squad goes down.
Right,
so if you
okay.
only put 3 club trained players, then I think it's 25 overall players. It goes down to 24, and so on. So yeah, that's another reason why Cameron Archer, I think, will probably stick around, because if he's not in it, then all of a sudden there's a bit of a, unless you, as you say, put in 4 players who, I don't know, Travis Pass and Caden Young,
16-year-olds that probably aren't going to play anyway, but have been trained at the club, and just put them in to fill a hole. And then the players that would qualify, Archer, Ramsey, etc., you send them out on loan and get proper football.
Yeah, it's what you exactly. It's how you weigh it up. But I'd like to think Cameron Archer gets a shot at it next season. Aaron Ramsey too. I'd love for him to get a chance. But you're just thinking, in Premier League games, are they going to get the opportunity? I'm not sure they will. And Conference League games, we're going to take that very seriously. We're going to respect every opponent. And I don't think there'll be too much chopping and changing between teams. Now we have the luxury of taking out Douglas Luiz and bringing in Tielemans. It's not Luiz for Tim.
Yeah. Or
maybe it will be for Kamara if he impresses in pre-season, but we don't know that yet. So let's see what happens in pre-season.
Another transfer-related one here from Arnold, who says, I'm happy with the window so far and links to other players. I'm slightly concerned about cover for Kamara, or another number 6, due to his injuries last season, as I think he is crucial. Dendoncker doesn't cut it, and McGinn is needed further forward. What are your thoughts?
I agree. I think that is maybe not an issue, but it's somewhere that you definitely got to look at, because Kamara, as you say, does get injured, and if you played Luiz and Tielemans, then you are missing that natural ball winner. I actually really like Dendoncker, and I think whenever he's come in, he's always been a shout for man of the match. I look at the United game, Emery's first game, played very well. The 2 weeks before that against Brentford was excellent. Against Newcastle, excellent again. Other games possibly too. So maybe it's for him that he needs to get a move, because he's not going to be guaranteed the game time that he needs. And I know that I think Villa and him are both sort of willing for that to happen. So a new player you'd presume would come in, maybe a player that can fill in a couple of roles. So Tyler Adams, for example, from Leeds, is a player that Villa like. can he occupy that role and fill in at right back potentially? He's done that at Leipzig. That might be an option that they explore, but he won't be cheap because other clubs are interested in him. Brighton, Forest, Everton, the bottom of the half of the Premier League would take Tyler Adams. But there's not too much differences between him and Dendoncker in terms of what they do. He wins more tackles and plays a few more progressive passes per 90, but Dendoncker, he was in like the top 3 and top 2 percentile of blocks and interceptions in the Premier League last season. 87 passing accuracy as well. Again, not particularly progressive, but he keeps the ball.
Yeah.
Tyler Adams is, you could say more wasteful, but it's not going to be a massive difference here and there. But I agree, probably a new holding midfielder, should we say, comes in. But again, it's a good opportunity for Tim in pre-season to really stand out, because that could solve a massive issue, not a massive issue, but it could be a huge bonus for Villa. Where we don't want to be spending money where we don't have to be. If Tim can come in, you're not paying any big wages there. You're not paying any transfer fee.
There, isn't it?
It's great for his progression. So I'm hoping that in pre-season he can impress and do that, because there's a role there for him if he can take it and impress Emery. So
I quite like Dendoncker and what he offers. The only thing, I don't know whether I'd say it's a downside, but an area that we could maybe improve is the mobility. That he's a bit kind of, I don't know how to say it without like making him sound massively disrespectful, but a bit kind of like clunky almost, that you need someone a bit more agile, a bit more speed maybe.
Potentially, and Tyler Adams would give you that, and there's other players on Villa's list that would fit that job. So yeah, I think if an offer comes in for Dendoncker, which I'm sure it will, Villa will negotiate with it, and I think it's likely that he'll probably depart this summer. And if that's the case, then yeah, you'd expect a new body through the door sort of thing. But I just think for Tim, take the opportunity. Like in pre-season, he'll be all over that. You've got to fly on you. It's gone, don't worry.
Question from Nick. And we spoke about this on a podcast that we've done with Jamie Kemble, and we spoke about Pau Torres last week as well. Again, as of we're recording this video, he's not officially holding up the shirt anywhere, but
he will be.
It's going to happen. Torres, Carlos, Mings and Konsa all fully fit. Who are you starting as the back two for the first game of the season?
I don't think you can make a harder question.
That's a great question, isn't it, from Nick? I love that. You
couldn't make a harder question right now.
I think pre-season will likely give us the answer to that. If we play Torres and Mings for 4 pre-season games in a row, it's probably going to be those two.
I'm going to have to partially sit on the bench. Sit on the fence.
1 or 2 of them will be sat on the bench.
If Newcastle was tomorrow, you'd start Mings and Konsa, because it's tried and trusted and it's good. But then the question I ask is, well, can you play 2 left footers in a back 4, or will Emery do that in terms of the 2? I don't think he will. It's between Torres and Mings then. Torres is or was one of the best La Liga centre-backs last season and is an excellent player, arguably our best centre-back now, one of our best players in the team.
Yeah, on paper.
Yep. But then Mings was one of our best players last season, and we all know, an excellent player himself, so it's so difficult. I genuinely can't.
What about back 3? Konsa or Carlos on the right, Mings in the middle, Torres on the left?
The question says back 2 though.
I know.
But that would
a cop-out,
solve
isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. Mings and Konsa right now, because that's tried and trusted. But then over pre-season, Emery's could be Torres and Carlos, for all we know, and that sounds good to me.
Exactly,
any mix, any kind of a pick and mix, isn't it? Whichever partnership, I think will be fine. But it's
exciting.
Squad depth for sure. Yeah, very it's positive.
Penultimate question then from Chris. I've heard and read mixed reports ranging from we have no money, or we won't spend much this summer because of financial fair play, and we have 200 million to spend and money is no object. Which is it? Now I'm going to take an assumption here and guess that this is from the 1874 podcast from Dan and Greg in the last couple of days, where Greg Evans was discussing about how Villa maybe need to be careful with FFP, and at some point are going to have to make a player sale to kind of keep the income rolling and things like that. I've also heard Dan on the James Olcott podcast on Spotify with like a 200 million war chest of like, let's go and spend this and spend that, and maybe some of that was a little bit hypothetical. And I think again, I'm making an assumption here on Chris's question that this is where this conversation has come from. I think what Greg was saying has probably been taken out of context a little bit.
He was taken out of context
from the bits I've seen. I've not listened to the whole thing, but I've seen kind of segments of it.
Greg wasn't saying we have to sell a player or even be in that position in 12 months' time. He was just referring to Villa can't spend their way.
Yeah,
and they need to be sensible, and that's everything that we know already. It's just that I think...
it's not that we need to sell Emi Martinez this season to fund the rest of our transfer budget of 150 million, 200 million.
Villa,
I don't think it's that at all.
Every club that doesn't have Champions League revenue is so far and away lower in terms of their revenue streams. It's so far reduced compared to other clubs in the league. You have to box clever. You have to. And Villa have obviously spent a lot of money. We're over 400 million since they gained promotion. 285 million over the last 3 seasons, and they've taken in about 120 million plus, mainly from Jack Grealish and Carney Chukwuemeka, pure profit.
Yeah.
So that's great. So over the last 3 seasons, it's not a huge spend, but can Villa spend 120 million this summer and then spend another 100 million next summer? No, they can't, because that's when you're overlapping on FFP, because player sales are important. Doesn't mean we have to sell player for 60 million, but you can't keep taking on big wages and you can't keep spending transfer sums. And yes, Torres and Tielemans have come in for a combined 31 initially at the moment, but FFP doesn't just look at you bought these players for relatively cheaper than they're supposed to be. That's fine. It doesn't work like that. There's a big wage on Tielemans. There'll be a big wage on Torres. There's a big wage on other players who have come in recently. Coutinho, who granted might leave. Other players too. Kamara, big wage. It's a free transfer. It's great, but it's still a big sum of money. It's just being sensible. That's all it is. And Villa will continue to do that. They can't spend their way to success, and we know that. That's why Emery coming in is great, because he can buy Alex Moreno for 12, 13 million pounds and make a huge difference. So it's nothing. It's not like a big worry as such for the club, or shouldn't be for fans either. It's just a simple message of Villa. Player sales are important. Danny Ings going 15 million was important.
Yes.
If they can recoup a good fee from Dendoncker, then brilliant.
Yeah.
Does that mean they can then double those transfer fees as such? No, probably not. You just got to be clever with it.
If Villa don't make the top 4 in the next 2 or 3 years, some players will leave, and for big money, because we have good players now.
And that's not part of the plan.
No.
But it's a brilliant position to be in
though,
when every single one of your players is just improved by 10, 20 million quid under Emery.
And players that may be on the periphery of a Matty Cash, say that we signed for 15 million. If we've made him slightly better over the last few years and he's now worth 21, 22, yes, it's not this massive return of investment, but it's money back in the pot that overall helps our financial accounts. Like you said, it doesn't need to be an 80 million sale of Douglas Luiz. It can be little ones here and there, and they are inevitable.
When Villa got promoted, they spent a lot of money because they had to. That was taken out of context, but we spent about 11 million per player because we had to do it, which totaled to about 120 million, which is a lot of money. But a lot of those players they bought at an age that they'd be able to improve and develop under Dean Smith, which they did. And then Gerrard come in was probably the wrong appointment. Now Emery's taken them on a step further. But all of those players, your Douglas Luiz's, Matty Cash, Consa, all those players now getting to sort of middle age, I suppose, in their careers, they're all worth a lot of money because they've come from 22 up until 24, 25. So if Villa are in a position where they want to buy this player and they have to buy this one to really take it up a notch or whatever, and they're close to FFP, then decisions can be made, and they're not fire sales. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And Villa aren't going to be in a position where they have to sell.
There's no big
Douglas Luiz
red panic button at Villa Park going, oh my God, we're in trouble. Sell Douglas Luiz.
Exactly, and that's not a brilliant position to be in. So yes, Villa will be going closer to FFP if they spend more money. Of course they will. It's the same for any club. But they're in a good position where they have a lot of assets that clubs want to buy, and they're all on long contracts too, which is another credit to the club getting Luiz tied down. Over the next 2 years, it's only Watkins and Leon Bailey that are sort of first team stars as such, that have 24 months left on the deal. So really good position for Villa to be in. It's just that if you're not a club that has the luxury of having Champions League revenue, your money, your revenue is going to be lower, therefore your FFP is going to be tighter, all those things. So for Newcastle, it was big for them to get into the Champions League because they're obviously sailing close to the wind. So
let's move on to the last question, which is absolute nonsense, and we'll probably spend more discussion on this than we did on our last one. So I've got to do this in like a multi question format here. So the AVFC faithful first of all tweeted, pineapple on pizza, yes or no? Nicholas replied, no, but banana. AVFC faithful, what? In capitals. Nicholas says, a few thin slices. AVFC faithful, this has to be discussed on the podcast, that's outrageous. And I replied saying, straight into the document, which is here. Nicholas says, I'm excited, but you can't talk about it if you haven't tried it. So let's rewind a little bit there. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
I'll throw you even more. I don't really like pizza.
Oh.
I'm the wrong man to talk to.
Yeah, you're this super fit gym guy, you don't even eat, eat it.
Just Not a fan.
Pizza's one of the best things
But
to
I would
have
say
because you can change the toppings.
banana and
and
pizza sounds. I was going to swear crazy. Yeah.
Pineapple on pizza is the
Pine-
age-old question. I don't like it. I don't like pineapple, so that's the big.
Too sweet for
I just don't like the taste. I don't like the
sweet.
texture.
Sweet on
It's-
savoury, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it's just weird. So
bananas.
pineapple on pizza is a no because I don't like pineapple, but I also don't think it should be on a
But I
savoury
suppose
thing anyway.
If you're doing pineapple, you might as well throw an apple, banana, grapes. I don't know. You might as well.
It's just
Experiment.
not. But that's the thing. It's not right, is it? But banana on pizza.
Have you tried it?
No, I haven't tried it. But why would I want to? That is
'Cause
outrageous.
Nick's saying so.
I mean, I fail to believe there'll be anyone else listening to or watching this podcast on Spotify or YouTube, subscribe by the way, who will agree that banana on pizza is a good idea. Most people will be split on the pineapple thing. Never mind
Banana
banana.
is quite versatile though.
Not on a pizza though. In a pudding,
Banana
like a
bread,
dessert.
dough,
Yeah,
pizza.
but that's still a sweet
Yeah.
product. It's supposed to be like a cake, isn't it?
If you're talking,
Pizza is supposed to be savoury, so why would you stick a banana on it? Why would you stick pineapple on it?
I've never seen it advertised either.
I mean, I don't know where Nicholas is from. Maybe it's a speciality wherever he's from. If he's from the UK, it's bananas, isn't it? That'll do, I think. I think that was all the questions I had for this Q&A. I will try and do my best to get this out on the day we're filming it, so Tuesday afternoon, hopefully, depending on what time we get back from Hockley. If not, it'll be Wednesday, the 5th of July. So none of the things we've talked about go out of date. Like we just mentioned, Ollie Watkins hasn't signed a new contract yet. He might have by the time this comes out, who knows. So we'll do my best to get this out as quick as possible. If you're watching this on YouTube, get involved in the comments down below. Maybe give your own answers to some of these questions as well. If you're listening on Spotify, leave us reviews, share the podcast. All those things really help us out massively. Thanks to Hockley Social Club for letting us film here this afternoon. It's very much appreciated as always. And John, thanks for your time and insight as ever. Thank you very much for watching or listening to this podcast, and we'll see you again on another one very, very soon.